All right, welcome back to Super Centex After Dark. Or as John and I were saying at lunch this week, Friday Night Raw.
Hey, Bryce, Friday Night Raw.
That's awesome, John. Oh, I love it. I love it.
I thought we needed a prop.
John's stepping up his podcast game. Some good games tonight, some blowouts. I'm gonna start with what looked to be like an epic China Spring La Vega game if I'm just looking at the score.
Yeah, and that looked like that to me too. I actually called an audible and went to the Taylor Swift movie tonight.
No, shut up. Hey, the Midway band was playing Taylor Swift.
What song?
You Belong
to Me. Shake It Off?
No, You Belong to Me.
Okay. Well, no, in all seriousness, China Spring La Vega have played some classics over the years. It's hard to forget that 2007 game for a lot of reasons.
Well played. We'll just leave that right where that is.
But the Dustin Eskew flying over the goal line, Superman, fourth quarter, big play. That was and you know what? Tonight it was a QB keeper that won it for China Spring against La Vega. So a little bit of a throwback there, a call out, as they say. But honestly, China Spring was making plays over the top, like it seemed like with ease. They had guys wide open, and then they also had Cash McCollum laying the ball into guys, that were covered, that were going for touchdowns of 60 plus yards. So it was that kind of night for the Cougar offense, but La Vega hung right in there. And it's that whole thing of like, you get a 2 touchdown lead in football and you think you've got something, but you really don't, So China Spring was up 17 points tonight, and it only took one stop by the La Vega defense. And of course, Junior Thornton and Bryson Rowland are a tough tandem of guys to tackle and stop. And Thornton made a lot of plays with his arm. He passed for 231, rushed for 150 by my count. So that's a pretty dang good night. But on the other side, McCollum passed for 371, 6 touchdown passes, 1 rushing touchdown. And I mean, it's like Built Ford Tough Player of the Week next week type stuff, right?
Yeah. That dude, he's cash money for a reason. Man, so it looks like, La Vega obviously has narrowed the gap. I mean, right?
Yeah, it was a much more lopsided game a year ago. La Vega played really well. I mean, I wrote in my story, it was La Vega was relentless, but China Spring was resilient. So La Vega is going to be a tough out in the playoffs, I'll tell you that. Now, their defense needs to get back a little bit closer to where La Vega's defense was, a few years ago, because there were China Spring guys running free in the secondary. But I'm sure that's something that the Pirates coaching staff will address.
Speaking of the playoffs, I'm just going to go ahead and knock my game out of the way. I usually save myself for last, but Midway is now 3-1 in district play. Beat Copperas Cove 45-21, and it was not that close. It was 45-0 after the third quarter. Midway emptied its bench. Its backups were in there, and Cove got some garbage time touchdowns. But it was a game where everyone kind of got in on the act. They had some great plays on defense. Like I said, they shut them out for 3 quarters. Ty Brown, 3 touchdown passes, 2 touchdown runs. He hit 9 different receivers in this game, a bunch of deep balls. I mean, it was just what you want on a homecoming game. And as I said, 3-1 in district now, all the distractions that they've had. The Panthers are in a pretty good place. They will travel to Bryan next week for their final road game of the year, and then home to Pflugerville Weiss. And then they're off. If you'll recall, this was the same way last year with the schedule. They're off in week 11. This time, I think they'll be using week 11 to
To get
prepare
ready
for
for the playoffs.
prepare for the postseason. So good for
Yeah.
Midway. It was a lot of fun tonight for the Panthers for sure.
And on homecoming.
On homecoming with Taylor Swift jamming and the goaltenders high stepping and all of that. I got to get a goaltender shout out in there. You know that.
Hey, Bryce,
Yes.
can I mention as a Cove alum, I'm even more nostalgic for the Jack Welch RG3 era.
Yes, sir.
It's just a faint memory now.
Robert Griffin is not walking through that door.
No, he's not.
Cove has some talent. They're not devoid of talent, but clearly Midway has more and played better. And I mean, they're certainly gaining momentum. So, John, since you spoke up, so earlier in the night, I texted Chad, DJ, and Zach about picks, and so I usually knock mine out on Mondays just to get it out of the way. And I went back and looked, and at first I was like, why did I pick Maypearl over West? And indeed, West handled that game pretty easily. I actually felt good about Riesel over Marlin.
And hey, before let me just say I pulled even with you. As it stands right now, I pulled even with you. So anyway.
Yeah, I did get China on you, but because you went
That's
with
okay.
Vega. But yeah, Marlin, reading your story, John, big pick 6, right?
Yeah, I tell you, Marlin played some really good defense. Of course, they're known for their explosive offense. Riesel did a pretty good job holding them down. But yeah, Caden Judy, with about a minute 32 left, he made a great read on Gavin Oliver's pass, returned it down the left sideline for a touchdown, and that sealed the game. I was really impressed by the Bulldogs' defense. Earlier in the fourth quarter, they had an interception by, I hope I say this right, Jamari Hartsfield.
Mm-hmm.
He made a diving interception, set up a touchdown, gave him a 21-12 lead. And Riesel has to have a lot of things going right. That they run a very deliberate offense, and they did a pretty good job. Oliver's a really tough runner. He's just like a bull back there. He had 130 yards rushing. That was almost half of their offensive yards. But yeah, Marlin's good. I mean, they've got good speed.
Johnny, I'm gonna jump in there and ask you a question. Was the greatness of the Marlin radio broadcast in your vicinity tonight?
You know what? They did not have one.
Well, it's too bad. It would have been a good night for it.
They have a big press box at Riesel. That's the first time I've been to it, I guess, since they renovated the stadium. But no radio.
Well, it's worth the price of admission, especially for us sports guys that get in for free. But no, it's really fun. DJ experienced it last week, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I want to add on just Caden Judy almost had several interceptions last week against Crawford. So to hear that he finally got one against Riesel, I mean, that's pretty good because the kid's just always in there. He's just disruptive. So yeah, that's nice.
So you heard the radio broadcast last week?
Yeah, because we were in the same. I was at.
They're often in the press box, so
yeah.
Okay, I guess they were on the opposite side though. They have a little press box on the other side. They must have been there.
Yeah.
Man, I missed it.
You mentioned Caden Judy. Let me shout out Cannon Clendenin as well. Central Texas's leading tackler. And he was big again tonight for Midway. I have to shout out him. And I have to shout out James Satterfield too. 48-yard field goal. That kid's a stud. Midway's had good kickers over the years, and he's continuing in that trend.
Satty. I think they call him Satty.
Satty? I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. So good win for Ruben Torres and the Marlin Bulldogs. Maybe this is an every other year thing. Maybe they make a run at the state semifinals. We'll see.
Yeah, they were great 2 years ago.
They really were.
The last year was kind of a disappointment for them. But yeah, they looked really good.
All right, we'll get to DJ in a second, but Zach's just sitting there quietly. It just
What else is new? It's what I
Con-
always do.
contemplative. You knocked your story out fast. I guess Robinson was in it for a while, but Madisonville kind of pulled away. Is that what happened?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, 27-14, the score is a little bit wider than I think the game actually was. That Robinson's just really young, and sometimes that kind of came out in this game. There were a few like moments. That's kind of what I wrote about. Is there was, at the end of the first half, Robinson had an 81-yard kickoff return from Austin Marshall, a wide receiver, and had all this momentum, cut the score to 4 points headed into the break, and then third quarter comes out and the game kind of grinds to a halt with their kind of ground and pound style, and then another moment, they drive the field, score a touchdown, but it's called back because of a block in the back, and then 3 plays later get down to the goal line and get stuffed, right? And that kind of ends that momentum there. And then at the very end, Madisonville is driving, and then Robinson recovers a fumble, right? And then it's 4 straight incompletions, turnover on down, Madisonville scores, and that's it. So I think it's pretty clear to see what Chris Lancaster is building at Robinson. It's just, and it's gonna be good, right? It's just not there yet. And Madisonville, I think they had a very clear size advantage on Robinson, and they kind of. But I give Robinson a lot of credit, because I think if you look at, if the two teams are just standing next to each other, Madisonville, to me, has a clear advantage, and it didn't look like it on the field in the game. So, it's a disappointing loss, but I think if there is a moral victory, it's there was no quit, right? So
yeah. And that's a Madisonville team, by the way, that was 8-5 last year, regional semifinalists. Meanwhile, Robinson,
they just kind of keep getting better and better there, I feel like.
Yeah, Madisonville's got it going pretty well, but I mean, obviously that's a 5-team district that Robinson is in. They've already got that win over Salado, so I mean it's looking pretty good for Chris Lancaster's team to break that playoff drought. And as Zach said, they've got a young squad, and so that's playoff experience for next year, and something to build on. Zach texted us early in the game, or before the game, and was like, wait a minute, is Robinson's school song "Oh Christmas Tree"? And we were like, yup.
I felt like I needed a Santa hat or something. Like
you took that off
was
your
not expecting
Central
that.
Texas high school football bingo card. You heard the "Oh Christmas Tree" Robinson school song.
Yeah, fun stuff. Oh Robinson, how cool is your mascot? Rockets, baby, go Rockets. Let's go over to
on the podcast now.
Let's go over to DJ. Good win for University. How did that one play out?
Oh man, I can't say that I got the privilege that Zach did, and heading out and writing his story, because the Trojans won that game in the last minute. It was 17 seconds left on the clock.
Wow.
It wasn't always pretty, and that's something that Karen Johnson said when I talked to him after him. It wasn't a pretty win, but a win is a win, and it gets them one step closer to a second year in the playoffs. And Elgin looked pretty good for most of the night, but University is just tough, right? Like that, like when there were moments when you thought the Wildcats were gonna pull away, and the Trojans were like hanging in there. They have a tough defense, and honestly, they would have won by more if it weren't for just some mistakes in penalties. I think they had 8. Most of them were like offsides on defense or holding calls on offense. And then to Elgin's credit, they were also guarding all of University's weapons really well. Like London Smith had 1 reception. And Bynum went, I think, like 8 for 19 in completions. Yeah, but they were down at the half. They came back. They were hanging on. They held Elgin to 2 field goals in the second half. And then just late in the fourth quarter, they had 3 minutes left to pull away because they were only down by 3.
Sounds like almost the exact same thing that they did against Colleen Chaparral, which, to their credit, that's 2 district wins that they got that way.
And to me, that's a sign of a team that's growing up, because if you can win ugly, and on a night, as DJ said, when really your best player, I mean, London Smith's the most talented guy on that team, has 1 catch, and Bynum doesn't do much, and you still pull it out and win. That's big time.
Well, I didn't say Bynum didn't do much, because the kid can, I think he was really composed, and toward the end, he picked up some really big runs. He found a couple of guys other than London that were open. I think there was a touchdown in the second quarter where he was scrambling, didn't really have like anywhere to go, so he just kind of chucked the ball up, and Carlos Perez was like right there at the edge of the field, right inside the line, to make the reception, and it put him inside the 10-yard line, like right outside the 10-yard line, and he ran it in he had 2 rushing touchdowns tonight, Cade Bynum, and for a sophomore, he's done pretty good this season, and I think if he keeps growing like that, like by the time he's a senior, he's going to be a stud quarterback.
Yeah, I like that kid. I'm with you.
I was just looking at my gamer from the China Spring La Vega game, and I got to give props to our photographer extraordinaire, Rod Adelot. 42 years on the job. He knows his stuff. He got a great picture of Cash McCollum, game-winning touchdown coming across the goal line. And actually, McCollum is about to spike the ball, like just throw it out of the end zone, spike it. And he got a 15-yard penalty for that. And spiking the ball shouldn't get you a 15-yard penalty. But the shot that Rod got, though, I mean, McCollum's across the goal line. His teammates are celebrating around him, and he's got the ball cocked and ready to throw it. And it's just one of those shots that's like, yep, Rod's got the stuff.
We should really have Rod on the podcast sometime.
We should have Rod text us during the podcast.
See, I knew that would generate laughs.
Better.
Just have like a text block of Rod text where like he texts us, right? And that could be part of the podcast, like interpreting Rod texts.
I love it. Before we go, I want to do a couple other shout outs. Statement win for the Mejia Black Cats tonight over Teague, 47-23. DJ, here's something you might write about. I think teams like Midway, Rosebud Lot, and Mejia, who took their lumps in non-district, are finding their rhythm in district play after, playing some tough teams. Man, good win for Mejia. They needed that. Against a Teague team that obviously had been playing well. Axtell still unbeaten. They beat the Gladiators. They slay the Gladiators. They are the Maximus. Axtell is. And Chilton. I mean, Chilton just keeps rolling along.
Oh, they were playing Bartlett, so that was a gimme. But yeah,
well, right. But I mean,
I'll add one to that. Gatesville gets what is probably a playoff clinching win. You mentioned they're also in that 5-team district. And I believe the Hornets have won a couple in a row now, or several in a row. Is that right?
Gatesville lost to Conley last week, remember?
Oh, that's it. That was the heartbreaker. Yeah. But still, they've won like 4 out of 5.
Yeah, they're on a nice run. DJ going to ACL, so enjoy yourself.
Foo Fighters? Are the Foo Fighters play tomorrow night
Foo
again?
Fighters tomorrow night.
Yeah.
I'm camping out at the Amex stage the entire weekend because on Sunday I get to see Niall Horan, Hozier, and Mumford and Sons back to back at the American Express stage, which is the same one that Foo Fighters is going to be on Saturday. So I'm hoping, I'm not dehydrated by the end of the weekend. I got one of those big like 3-liter sacks with the little hose. It doesn't have a bag though, and I don't know if I can take it in with the bag that I've got, but I'll figure it out.
Zach ran a marathon last week, and it's I'm you guys can quote me on this. You don't enjoy a music festival, you survive a music festival.
Yes.
So, kind of like a marathon, right?
Yeah.
So
I like it.
I don't know if y'all remember
hey,
Float Fest.
DJ. Hey,
Yeah.
DJ. Hey, have you ever seen the movie Woodstock? You have seen it?
No, but I've seen documentaries about Woodstock.
Well, okay. If the PA guy at ACL tells you don't take the brown acid, don't take it.
Now we're truly after
okay.
dark. Now we're
We
getting
are
drug
off
tips.
the rails. Go Stros! That's the other thing we gotta
Go
say.
Stros!
Yeah, go Stros!
Oh my gosh. I'm so excited, man.
We'll
so
see
excited.
who's hooping and hollering next Friday night.
Yeah, baby. Let's see y'all later. Peace out.
Good night.